Hello, and welcome back to the sim. So in this one, we're jumping into a review and a first look at the miniFCU from Mini Cockpit. Now, I want to preface this by saying I was not supplied this unit. No, like everybody else who joined in on the Kickstarter, I'm a real customer, and this is the real customer experience. I did not get it ahead of time. I did not get special treatment, and they are not aware that I was even going to do this when I got my unit. So I did get in on the Kickstarter campaign on that fateful day in June, just like everybody else, jumped on it as soon as it opened to get my unit. So one of the things I want to focus on is quality and value. Is this going to be something that you might also find value in, and where the value proposition sits based on the new details that have come out? So with a pre-order coming up in January, we're going to go through some stuff here. You're going to decide, and then I'll also show you that yes, indeed, you can make it work with GA planes as well, and not just Airbus, thanks in part to other software which will integrate the device. First up, my unit came to my door in the hands of a Canada Post delivery person who also carried a credit card machine for me to pay some more money. I took one for the team, and instead of getting it in like 3 days, I waited to see what took place. The packaging looked fine. It's that standard, comes in the grayish type sealed up thing to keep it waterproof. Then inside of that was some bubble wrap that was wrapped around the box itself to protect it. It does ensure that the product is arriving to you in one piece, though it does seem like with the other videos we've also seen that box does get kind of crunched in the corners and the sides. However, is that really a big deal? I mean, aren't we just gonna kind of throw it in the trash anyway? So when you open the box, you can see that it comes with a pretty useless cable. And really, why even put this one in the box? Just tell us we need to source a USB micro cable and call it a day. The fact is, you're going to need something that's probably 6 feet long anyway to go from the desk down to your PC. When I did go to plug it in, it was very clear that my unit was not going to get the cable to plug into the connector. It was clear the board was partway through up the opening. This board was not aligned with the hole very well, which made it clear to me that I was going to have to open it up to get this sorted out. I just don't know how that works for other people, and it doesn't really speak to the quality and experience for other users. Testing of the units are probably completed in a state then that is not fully completed, because there's no way somebody could have plugged the cable in. So I am inclined to speculate that these are getting tested at the board level prior to insertion into the cases, which could be a little bit unfortunate, could be done and handled a little bit better. Now, on the topic of quality of components, they do look fine, and in a way, having to open it up allowed me to take pictures and video that you see to see the insides. And it did allow us to see that they're using touchless sensors for all of the pushing, pulling, and the encoders, the turning of the encoders. All of their sensors are touchless. So there is no mechanical element that's involved in the encoders as well, in the sense of picking up the turns. That's all being done with these touchless sensors. So that's great. The quality definitely going to be long-term, going to be very, very good. It was also a way to see to the uniqueness of how they've put these shafts in and put springs on both sides to allow you to do the push and pull of the control. And then that's also how you see it sliding in and out of those sensors. And the springs do feel pretty strong. Pushing it and then pulling it, you definitely can feel that there's some give to them, which also is going to come back to haunt us a little bit later when we talk about the suction cups. One of the things I did notice with the springs is when you turn the knobs, over time, the spring kind of rounds out a certain way, and then you'll start hearing as you turn the knobs some cranking sound, some clicking, some clanking, and that's just the spring turning itself back over and untwisting itself. I don't feel like they're binding. I don't feel like it's causing any problems. I don't feel like it's building up. It just does make a noise from time to time. but that is what's there. And it's just a little creaking sound that happens from the rotating when you go around too many times. Continuing on with the talk about quality of manufacturing, you could see gaps in the case. So you could see a seam with the front panel touching the lid. So you can sometimes see a little bit of light bleeding out from there, but it's pretty minor and it still looks really good. The small buttons have almost no movement to them. So either the round ones or the small square buttons. I don't know, as I've never pressed them on a real unit. Probably should have stood in that line for the Scholarchy sim at the expo, but you know, I can't really offer an opinion as to whether that's accurate or not, or how much more depression there should have been on those buttons. The fact is you can feel that they click. They have LEDs on the square ones, so once you've got it programmed, you know if your press did something or not. The suction cups on the bottom are a good idea. For sure. It's a means to try and get it to stay in place for people who are using a desktop. And considering how the push and pull of those springs, as we were talking about earlier, does have a little bit of effort to it, that's a great idea to try to get it to stick in place. The issue I've found using it for multiple days now has been that those suction cups, they regularly slowly release their suction. And so every once in a while, you're constantly reaching up, pushing back down on the back to get them to stick back down, which has led me to finding another issue in that there is no support at the back top of the case. So the way the case goes over the top and the back piece is part of the bottom metal, the sides screw in, and so it's sturdy on the sides and towards the front. However, at the back, it can cause the back to pop outwards. And when it pops outwards, well, that can also force that USB cable to pop out the back on you, thus disconnecting it. Now, there are some screw holes at the top. It looks like they may have originally had a design which had another bend on that piece of metal, which would have allowed you to secure the top to the back, thus keeping the case flush. As of now, you can bow it and that causes the back to pop out. I really do think this is something they should address prior to the next round, but we'll see what happens, and hopefully they can do a better job for everyone else. Now, bonuses to the design that I really liked, the Vesa mount. I think the Vesa mount screw pattern on the bottom is a great idea. Vesa mount is a standard pattern, it's easy to find brackets, and also it's a standard pattern which you have plenty of templates from if you wanted to build some type of a plate to secure it to, and then look to secure that plate to the desk, either with some C-clamps, or if you do have a sim pit, you would have other screw locations which would allow you to adapt it. The only other thing that I found while looking through this thing is going to be the 10-100 or the 100-1000 switch. There's a little bit of bleed with the white ink. It's not as clean as I would have liked to have seen. Considering how well the etching is on the front panel for the backlighting, how well the button backlighting works, just the level of quality of the display. I mean, the display is a high quality display. Off-axis viewing is good. The contrast is good. It looks really sharp. And so it's just this one little piece that cosmetically just kind of makes you go, man, they should have better intake quality. With all that, what do I think of it? So far, I'm liking it. In my case, I got really good value. For me, because I was part of that early bird and I got in on the ground floor, it was 772 Hong Kong dollars that was charged on the 30th of June to my credit card. So on that day, that translated to $134.29 Canadian. Now, that then, of course, had different tiers. So other people, even in the Kickstarter, will have paid more than I did because I was still able to get in. Of which, little side note, on my opportunity to pay for shipping, part of my notification was I was order 700. So I'm kind of curious if anybody out there is watching this, also ordered it, was part of the Kickstarter. Just curious, what was your number? Maybe you could put it in the comments. I'd love to find out where everybody's numbers were and kind of when you got the opportunity to get yours. So coming back to this, Easy Ship is now looking to charge me in November, And so on November 30th, I got to pick from how I wanted to ship it. And so as I quickly mentioned earlier, I went the Hong Kong Post route, and I chose the 5 to 8 working days. I could have gone with the fee for longer, and it would have been cheaper with Hong Kong Post. I chose something that was more reasonable. So 5 to 8 working days. So on November 30th, that was $46 US. And that translated to $65.13 being charged to my credit card. Now that brought our total up to $199.42. And now this is all in Canadian, remember? So let's just call it $200. So we're in for $200, and now this item is going to be shipped out. So we get notification on December 4th that it is shipped, and so we should be looking at a 5 to 8 working day delivery. On December 17th, as I mentioned earlier, which is a Sunday, nonetheless, it was delivered by Canada Post. And even with the working days conversion, with the weekends inside of there, that should have put it landing around December 14th. So December 17th, not a big deal. It's a little bit more, but within a reasonable, especially considering, like I said, it was delivered on a Sunday. However, I did have that keypad put in front of me, and I had to pay an additional $39.41 to cover the handling, duties, and taxes of the unit. So that brought our running total purchase price to $238.83. Now, for a portion of an FCU, because don't forget the APHIS and the eCam are add-ons that will come later, that we'll have to buy. That's not too bad. For something that's only going to work with Airbus, that starts to be about my limit for buying something that I'll use very limited. However, again, right at this time, we also got that email that they had announced that you could use it with MobiFlight. And of course, I already knew, because I beta test a lot of the SPAD stuff, I already knew that SPAD.NEXT was going to be working as well with it eventually. So they got a unit, and based on them getting their unit, I knew when mine arrived, it was going to plug in, and we were going to start beta testing them and making it work with other devices. So now this is big value for me, because I'm going to be able to use it with any plane I want to use it with. And so with all those displays, LEDs, mode types, the 4 knobs, and the other buttons on there, you start to have the value for incorporating that into your sim. What I want to try to do, though, is break it down for what's this going to look like for the pre-order pricing. So in that same email that notified us that it was going to be working with MobiFlight and they're going to be opening up pre-orders in January, they did say in mid-January they're going to be looking at opening pre-orders and to a limited run of 2,500 units. So they're stating that they're going to do this at $269 US, and that's going to include complimentary global shipping. Now, it doesn't state what tier that is or what it includes. It does clearly state that it excludes duty and taxes. So if I was to go based on what I saw in the original ordering, there were like 4 options. There was 2 options involving Hong Kong Post, HK Post, and there was 2 options involving FedEx or DHL. My guess is it's going to be the first one that was on there, the lower priced one, which is one of those longer, could take up to 40 days type thing to ship. Clearly, I still paid $46 US or whatever it turned out to be, $69 Canadian, to go for the 5 to 8 day, which I think would be a reasonable thing. So my guess is it's going to be the lesser, but for the sake of it, $269, and that includes shipping, just not taxes, duty, and whatever international handling you're going to get charged for processing that. So let's just say, even if it was the 5 to 8 day, great. So if we go through the experience that I had, and knowing UPS and DHL fees are, usually $45 plus taxes. If we look at my duty and taxes, so they were based on that sale price of $134 Canadian. So Canada Post reports it. They take the bill of lading that states the value, which was that 772 Hong Kong dollars. So they take that 134 and then they applied the duty, the taxes, and the handling fee. So if we take $269 and we convert that in today's dollar today, so December 24th, that's 356 Canadian as of today's exchange rate, which would increase that fee, don't forget. So Canada Post, let's say the handling fee stays at $10. Well, that difference in 134 to 356 is still, just if we didn't say the duty would increase for some reason, some value, if it was just taxes, that's another $28.60 that we as Canadians have to pay. So if only that tax was added, then that would be bringing our total, including total import, to about $68, right? So instead of that import being $39, that gets you up around $68. So putting that in around $424 for this unit if it was based on the pre-order pricing and how I know shipping and duties would work. So yeah, now we start talking about $424. That's almost $200 more than what I paid through the Kickstarter. Now we really get into a value proposition for users getting this Airbus controller that's only for Airbus planes. So it's very, very good that users can now make the decision knowing that, yes, MobiFlight is working with it, and yes, SPAD.NEXT is currently working with it. And so like I'm saying, once you start getting into that territory of going above $400, I think it's really hard in the flight sim community to really hit that high number of people that will want to buy something that is only going to work with an Airbus plane. So it is a lot more reassuring, I think, to the community that they are going to be able to use MobiFlight, SPAD.NEXT, and maybe even something from the vendor themselves that will open it up to some standardized GA airplanes. And again, GA can include business jets. It can include the CJ4. It can include G3000 and G1000. A lot of the stuff Working Title did will work with standard SIMVARs. So you can make it work pretty easily. And that's kind of what I really wanted to highlight. So I'm going to jump into a couple of planes here, and I'm going to show you just how it's working via SPAD.NEXT and how we can bring it into that community. And now we can go ahead and build these snippet profiles around these devices to work with all kinds of planes. So first up, let's jump into the CJ4, as it's one of the most popular business jets, obviously, because of the work that Working Title did and because it's in the base game. So it doesn't matter which version of Microsoft Flight Sim you bought, you've got it. So normally taking off out of Ottawa, what you would see us have to do is we would set the heading bug because it is a runway heading vectors. So it's going to be 139 on the 14. We're going to take off, and then we're going to be vectored 5,000 feet. And even with the Working Title, you have to be careful, very fast on the spin. So we're going to go 5,000 feet, and then we're going to get ourselves a heading, and then we're going to move ourselves on course. So because there is no auto throttle, I repurposed the auto throttle for the flight director. So you can see the flight director, right? Autopilot 2 is going to give us pitch. If we pull, and that's the thing I was talking about, gotta be careful with those suction cups, but the pull will enable VS. We could pull to take out a VS, and we could dial up our VS, and if we take it out, then we're in pitch, and we do have our pitch mode available to us. Expedite is gonna set up flight level change on our speed. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put ourselves into heading mode, and to do that we pull out on the knob, and you can see that we get heading mode enunciated. We could climb with pitch, however normally we are going to set toga. So let's go ahead, get toga in, and we'll go ahead and just go to heading mode in this case. So let's get ourselves powered up, And we're going to go ahead and take off the parking brake. And let the plane come off. Gear up. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the autopilot on, which also puts on the flight director as well as the yaw damper. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to hit expedite, so that speed. And we can see that the speed came on. We're going to go ahead and we're going to dial up 240. We're going to go ahead and climb with our speed. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to start that right-hand turn. And of course now we might be cleared to a higher altitude. So we're going to go ahead and dial up .240. Actually, let's do 230. Yeah, you gotta be careful with the clicks on it. It is fast. That's not the FCU, that's the working title CJ4. When it gets those events, it goes up pretty fast. So there we go. We're now aiming for 240 in the climb. Make sure to get our flaps all the way up. Should have got rid of those a while ago. Obviously now we will pick up speed and climb like a shuttle. So at this stage, we probably would also need to come on over here. And then let's go ahead and go to Lorca Direct, hit execute. We are now on the direct. And so we can come over here and you can see that we can hit loc, which we've mapped to our nav mode. So it's going to go ahead and it's going to engage LNAV. And because we were close enough, it's going to go ahead and turn in to intercept the course. So a couple other things that you can do. You can switch it into Mach mode. So we see Mach 0.43 at 238, but of course we're not in the Mach yet, so we're going to stay at 240 on speed. I actually programmed the heading track button as an example so that we could actually get to the course when we need to adjust courses. And then also be able to control it that way. So nav and your course are separate. So number 2 on our list of planes that we're going to show you real quick to show you some things working in it is my favorite jet of all time in Microsoft Flight Sim. I love the HJet, okay? The Flight Effects Marin Garib HJet is one of my favorite planes. I have so many hours in this, but I just think this is a great plane, and so it's always one of my go-tos whenever I want to set up a new device. Because I know how well it works. So here we are, and we're in the Honda Jet, or the HJet, by Flight Effects. And so with this one, we do have an auto throttle, so you can see when we turn on the auto throttle, it will ramp up the auto throttle, and the auto throttle will start giving us some go-go juice. Just looking in a little bit tighter, so we can see things a little bit better. And you can see that we are currently on our way to Vesa. And so if we hit the nav button, you can see that we now have heading mode and we now have FMS mode. So it does arm as we'd expect, and we're now on an intercept for that while we are climbing in flight level change up to flight level 230 at a speed of 200 knots, which we've put in there. Of course, now that we have cleared the 200 knot restriction, we can go ahead and jump up to 210. That's part of our climb schedule. So absolutely all of this functionality is working very well. and you do have the option to go ahead and enable flight level change, but also VNAV mode. So you can see we've got VNAV. We do have our unrestricted climb. We can come out of VNAV as well, since we're unrestricted all the way up to 230, and it seems to be up and running pretty good. There are those changes though, as mentioned. So for example, if I put this into managed mode, so say we change the speed and I put this into managed mode, what you'll notice is it's supposed to be 210 knots, as we see on the PFD, but you see the speed does not update. So one of the problems we've got is there's still a little bit of conflict in how an Airbus displays, and even just turning on that LED currently has us limited in that we can't update the display because it still has some internal logic that it shouldn't be processing. So hopefully they'll update the firmware. Same thing for the altitude managed dot. We can't turn that off currently. We can manipulate most of the other LEDs and modes to change them. We just do run into the problem that with those managed dots on, we can't update the displays the way we'd like. So again, a little bit of firmware change. We're jumping in with the PC-12. And again, part of that is just, it's a brand new plane, requires custom H events and LVARs, not standard sim events. So again, highlighting yet another example where to tie in these high-end planes, you're gonna need to be working outside of standard events. And takeoff, let's get our yaw damper on. And let's go ahead and get our autopilot on. And we're climbing in VS and heading mode as we go on up. Of course, we want to change our heading. So we turn in. Get yourself on an intercept course for the GPS. And we go ahead and hit that nav mode. And so now nav mode is currently armed, and it's turning in to capture the nav. Let's turn the 45, it's going to capture it. And so you can see again up here for the PC-12, we have to use all of these SWS custom H events so we can control the altitude alerter. So if we wanted to change our altitude, we could pull this out so that simulates the pulling of the knob. We can dial in, and we've got the thousands. If we change it to 1,000, now we're controlling the outer knob. Back to moving by hundreds, so we're going to go to 17,000, and if we push it, that's the arm mode. And then same thing, if we push on the VS, we will go into VS mode. See 1500, we can pull the knob. We can say, we want to step it up at a little bit higher of a rate. So all that is perfectly set up, and we are using B events for all the commands. So again, B autopilot, B yaw damper, B flight director, B nav, because all of these buttons are B events inside of the PC-12 here on its flight control unit. So again, everything can be remapped, everything can be assigned, and I think that's where the value starts to come back and make it possible if you're going to buy one of these, because really with those displays, being able to drive them all and have the value that you can use it with other planes and not just an Airbus. I think it starts to become an expensive proposition for people, the general public, when you know, the average flight simmer isn't going to be spending that kind of money on something that can only be Airbus, and then having to buy another panel and another panel for different planes. It's really great to be able to use it for this one plane at all other planes. Just have to use a little bit of other software. If you made it this far, do me a favor, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't, and come along on the next one. As always, Thanks for watching. Have a great day.